a death caused by the hitchhiker effect from Skinwalker Ranch. This is fascinating and scary, a story shared by the Skinwalker Ranch team at the recent Phenomicon. Let me get into it. First, this is Cosmic Road, where I discuss UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified of future videos. And as I'm going through this, please comment below and let me know what you think. Oh, and there's social media links below if you wanted to follow me on Facebook and Twitter. That would help a lot. I would love that. Okay, let's get into this. Recently, the Skinwalker Ranch team sat down for a panel at the Phenomicon, and they shared some really interesting stories, some of them involving the hitchhiker effect. We all are familiar with the hitchhiker effect, I assume, but it's when you go to a location that is haunted or has, odd activity, paranormal, alien activity, and then when you leave that location, effects follow you home, and you have things happen at home. Sometimes it's poltergeist, sometimes it's wolfmen. Whatever it is, you continue to have non-mundane, if you will, activity at home, and that seems to happen very frequently with Skinwalker Ranch. I do ghost hunting, and I've experienced this a little bit myself, or at least I think I have. As Eric Bard will say later on, sometimes it's hard to, really pin down the cause of some of this stuff. So correlation doesn't equal causation, as he says. So I can't say for sure the effects that I had at home were caused by that haunted house, and the effects that I had were not negative. All the activity at the haunted house was negative. Well, most of it. But in the clip I'm about to share, Travis Taylor and Eric Bard are sharing a very scary incident involving the hitchhiker effect. And I think this is a very important incident. And that's why I'm bringing it to your attention, because there's actually a death associated with the hitchhiker effect in this incident. Now, it is the death of an animal, but it is still a death directly caused by the hitchhiker effect. Whatever intelligence is governing the hitchhiker effect, and yes, I do believe there's an intelligence, because often these incidents do showcase actually an intelligence. I like to talk about the incident with Dr. Travis Taylor's butt warmer a lot, because I think it shows the more humorous side of the hitchhiker effect. And it also showcases clearly an intelligence at work with the effect. Travis was sitting in a seat in his car, driving down the road, and he had been experiencing the hitchhiker effect before, and his butt warmer wasn't working on his chair. At a certain point, he and his daughter switch places, and she's driving, and suddenly that butt warmer is working, and his butt warmer now on the passenger side is not working. So the effect is, following him from seat to seat, disabling his butt warmer. It's humorous, but it also clearly shows an intelligence guiding this event. And I really like that story because it does showcase kind of a range in the hitchhiker effect. It does show that there is a humorous side of this. However, in the story I'm about to relate, and that Travis and Eric are about to relate, you will see that it's not all humorous. It can be scary, and I've shared some of those incidents before. I'm reading the book Skinwalkers at the Pentagon right now, and one particular incident or series of incidents involves a family coming home from the ranch, and for wolfmen to start showing up to the family and terrifying the family. And that's a very scary incident, but as far as I know, there's no deaths attributed to it. Is the intention there to cause fear? Is something feeding on that fear? Anyway, let's get to the actual story, and then we'll discuss. Here's Travis and Eric relating this shared incident.
Yeah, so I live in Alabama, near Huntsville, actually directly across the river from the airport. So it's not called Huntsville where I live, but it's closer to Huntsville than people that live in Huntsville, actually. And I have a chicken coop that had an automatic door that I built for it. So it let them out in the morning and close them up at night so raccoons would get in and get them. And I think this was around March or April, if I recall. And it was perfectly clear night. Nothing's going on. And it was now the door system had a little computer that was completely hardwired and closed in a little box about this big, and the only thing it took from anywhere else was external power. And I just had an extension cord run from my barn over there to it. And at exactly, it was something like 10:30 p.m. or something like that, something like an EMI attack on that computer destroyed the computer and decapitated a chicken, caught a chicken in the door. The chicken should have been in the roost at this time. Why was and that door goes like this fast.
Chickens are fast.
So the chicken would have had plenty of time to have gone out of the way, or it was just really stupid.
It was one of those Austin Powers moments.
Yeah.
You're gonna run over it at a half a mile an hour.
Get out of the way. And so the chicken, number one, woke the chicken up, got it out the door, and then made it sit there until it did this. I called Eric and said I had like an electromagnetic attack on my chicken house, and I just kind of hinted. And I also have sensors in my house, and there was a microwave burst at my house when this happened. And when I talked to Eric, he was stranded on the side of the road in the ranch Jeep, and all the electronics in the Jeep had blown out at the exact same time. And so there are weird things like that. You know, correlation isn't causation, but when it happens so many times.
That's a point I'm really glad you brought up, because I meant to bookend this with that reminder. I always have to do that, and I think that most of this hitchhiker stuff is of such a nature that there's always room for, if you will, speculation or doubt, and just as much of either. I don't want to sensationalize this, or more importantly, I don't want to state as a given or as a conclusion that it is a proven connection to what's happening at the ranch. It's just that these unusual events that don't really make much sense seem to correlate with what we're doing. They often come in sets.
Interesting, right? So we have a chicken that is decapitated by the hitchhiker effect. That is terrifying because it shows, actually harm to living animals, living beings can come from the hitchhiker effect. It's not always terrifying. Sometimes it's lethal. I think that's a very important thing to note and understand. Can it also kill humans? Well, if there's an intelligence behind the hitchhiker effect, which I think I've already talked about, and I certainly believe there's an intelligence behind it, well, if that intelligence wants to kill somebody, it can. The good news is I've never heard of a human death associated with the hitchhiker effect, and I've never heard of a human death associated with the phenomenon on the ranch. However, I do believe there have been deaths in the Uinta Basin, particularly the lake near Skinwalker Ranch, where there have been deaths attributed to the phenomenon. But data on that is scant. I also want to share a very important thing that Eric Bard talks about a little bit later in that panel. So in his own words, here he is.
We can sit here and talk about this phenomena for hours. I mean, we can do a whole panel easy on it. And there's darker stuff that we don't talk about because we just don't like bringing it up because we don't want to make it happen again.
Especially when it comes to things that are either menacing to or harmful to our family members. Obviously, we just don't. Look, it's fun up to a point to have this conversation, and then there's a point where it gets very real.
Well, and that when you start recognizing it, you're feeding it.
I think you might be onto something there.
I think that's a very important point. There are some things that are just too dark and too scary and too personal that the crew and cast of Skinwalker Ranch, of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, are not going to talk about. So there are some things they are just not sharing with us because it is just too much. And so there may be more deaths, more possibly animal deaths associated with the hitchhiker effect. It could be some wolfmen showing up at their houses, or giant wolves, or, who knows what. But there's obviously some scary stuff going on behind the scenes that they're not sharing with us. And part of the reason they're not sharing with us is because they're afraid that by speaking about it, it will only manifest more. So totally understandable that they wouldn't want to share that with us. Anyway, I think that is an important aspect of the phenomenon and of the hitchhiker effect in particular, that although it can be amusing at times, like with the butt warmer episode, it can also be terrifying, and in fact, it can actually be lethal. So this stuff is not something to be taken lightly. It's also worth pointing out the shared aspect of this incident. At the same time Travis was experiencing his difficulties, Eric was also experiencing difficulties. And there definitely seems to be a correlation there. They both happened at the same time, and it's both electrical incidents. The phenomenon affecting electrical devices. In my ghost hunting, I've observed how the paranormal activity can also affect electrical devices. A ghost or a shadow being will pass through a doorway, and we have that on security camera footage. It'll pass through the doorway, and the light in the hall will go off and then back on, as if the shadow being, in this case that I'm thinking of, was actually drawing power from the light in order to manifest. That's just speculation, but that's what happened. And there were numerous incidents, messing with computers, doing all sorts of stuff with the electronics. The whole theory behind the spirit box, communicating through the spirit box with the dead, is, because they can manipulate electricity. So are the incidents associated with the hitchhiker effect at Skinwalker Ranch? Is that more paranormal, more ghostly, or is that more alien, or are they essentially the same thing? There does seem to be a huge crossover between the metaphysical or spiritual and the otherworldly. Anyway, fascinating stuff. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. To me, this is a super fascinating subject, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. That would be awesome. Please hit the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future videos. There's social media links below. Please follow me on Facebook and Twitter, trying to grow this platform and reach more people. So it'd be super cool if you would follow me on Facebook and Twitter and share my post. That'd be super cool. And of course, there's a PayPal button below if you wanted to support the channel. That'd be groovy. Until next time, Cosmic Road out.